are making moves, and they have put one player on IR. They have waived another. They have signed two players. I will be back later tonight with a video on the second player who was signed. That video is going to be a little bit more difficult than this video because I already knew some things about Owen Carney. So we will get started from there. But Felix Anudike-Uzomah has been placed on IR, and Elijah Young, the running back, formerly of Missouri, was waived as well. A replacement player was signed for each of these players, and we're going to talk about the Felix Anudike-Uzomah injury in this video because I think that Owen Carney is kind of being brought in to replace FAU, or maybe not replace FAU, but for that position on the roster, right? You are losing a defensive end edge to injury to IR, and you are signing another one. So this is where we will talk about FAU. In an article titled Chiefs Place Defense. So what we're going to do is talk about the injury. I consulted ChatGPT because it kind of didn't make sense to me. And even after talking to ChatGPT about the injury itself, it kind of doesn't make sense to me, at least as it is being reported. Then we will talk about Owen Carney. We will talk about what he brings to the Kansas City Chiefs, the sort of area on the roster where I think he fits in, and that will be this video. In an article titled Chiefs Place Defensive End Felix Anudike-Uzomah on Season-Ending IR from ESPN by Nate Taylor, we get the following. Kansas City, Missouri. Chiefs defensive end Felix Anudike-Uzomah, the team's first-round pick in 2023, was placed on season-ending injury reserve Monday with a strained right hamstring. Now, just to get this out of the way here, I think you have to believe on some level this might be the last we see of Felix Anudike-Uzomah in Kansas City. I don't think anyone really expected him to make it through next season, which would be the last on his rookie deal, assuming the Kansas City Chiefs did not extend him as he was a first-round pick. And I don't think any of us saw that coming, right? So this might be the last we see of FAU. Anudike-Uzomah sustained the injury early in the fourth quarter of Friday's preseason game against the Seahawks. That there is part of the problem. A first-round pick playing early in the fourth quarter in the game which is normally, by snap count, the final week of the preseason, but the Chiefs seem to be flipping it up. Look, I'm not guaranteeing you that we see very much of the starters this preseason game either, but that is for another video. He was chasing rookie quarterback Jalen Milroe when he fell to the turf awkwardly and began grabbing the hamstring. While grimacing, Anudike-Uzomah tried to walk off the field but fell to the turf again and signaled to the Chiefs that he had needed help. He bowed his head and covered his eyes with his left hand. Continuing his disappointing tenure with the Chiefs, really laying it on there, Anudike-Uzomah's third season, one the team hoped would lead to him making sizable improvements, has now ended before the preseason finale. So I asked ChatGPT, how long is a football player normally out with a strained hamstring? To which ChatGPT replied, a strained hamstring can sideline a football player anywhere from a few days to several weeks, depending on the severity. Grade 1, mild strain, normally 1 to 2 weeks. The player might just miss a game or two. Grade 2, moderate tear, typically 3 to 6 weeks. This is the most common type seen in football. Remember, right now, the Chiefs have a preseason game and then a bye week before the regular season begins. So there is a lot of time left on a 17-game, 18-week schedule if this were going to be a 3 to 6 week injury. Grade 3, severe complete tear, often 8+ weeks, sometimes requiring surgery and extensive rehab. It is difficult for me to believe that with the reaction FAU had on the field, that this was a grade 3, right? I normally, especially with hamstrings, I don't know if you've ever pulled a hamstring. I have pulled a hamstring. I knew immediately, and I did not get up to my feet for several minutes. Now, Kobe shot 2 free throws and sunk them on a busted Achilles, right? So people have different pain thresholds. I guess I am a weakling, and certainly I am a weakling when compared to someone like FAU, but that reaction, a delayed reaction from FAU nonetheless, I'm not doubting it, right? But it is wild to see an IR designation ending his season from a strained hamstring at this point in the year. So I asked for examples of defensive ends with hamstring strains. These are the sorts of things where ChatGPT often hallucinates, so perhaps take these with a grain of salt. Myles Garrett, in the 2017 preseason, strained his hamstring and missed 3 weeks. Joey Bosa, 2020, hamstring strain in week 9, missed 2 games, return in week 12. Jadeveon Clowney in 2016, hamstring issue late in the season, missed 1 game but played limited snaps in his return. Jadeveon Clowney is an interesting name to have on this list. Danielle Hunter, hamstring tweak in camp, held out as a precaution, missed 2 preseason games but played week 1. Everson Griffin in 2018, mild strain, missed 1 game. Nothing here remotely reaching the entire season level. But that is what it is. So this is just a little bit of the rehab stuff here. And it says here, severe strain, grade 3, much rarer at defensive end, but would be 6 to 8 plus weeks. Nothing about an entire season. So, the Kansas City Chiefs signed Owen Carney. In an article titled Chiefs Lose Former First-Round Pick for Season from Sports Illustrated by Zach Gilbert, we get this about Carney. Carney, a 6'3", 270-pound edge rusher out of Illinois, originally signed with the Dolphins as an undrafted free agent in 2022. He spent part of his rookie season on the Bengals practice squad, but didn't make the team's final roster at the end of 2023 preseason. Kansas City brought him into training camp in 2024, but released him in the final cut. I thought I was going crazy when I heard that they had signed Owen Carney, because I thought I had covered this before, and I have. So this is Owen Carney's college career. Freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, senior. Defensive line, linebacker. You're looking at someone who had 2.5 sacks as a sophomore, 2 as a junior, 5 in his penultimate senior season, and 6.5 in his final senior season. Someone who had a 116 combined tackle total at the college level. Someone who played in 55 games. This is a guy with a lot of experience at the college level, has not played a snap in the NFL to this point, but has kind of bounced around, right? So if we're looking at the athlete that is Owen Carney, it's not very impressive. But football players are not just athletes. So you're looking at someone who is 6'3", 269 pounds coming out of college, routinely listed at 275 now, so we're left to believe that is his actual weight. 21 reps on the bench press, had a 29-inch vertical, a 9'3" broad jump, a 40-yard dash of 4.78. That's a pretty good score. A 1.66 10-yard split. That's a pretty good number. But short shuttle and 3-cone drills of 4.59 and 7.55 respectively, not all that impressive. However, if you look up in the left corner here, 33-inch arms. This is an offensive tackle arm length. So you're looking at someone that, despite being a little bit on the short side for a defensive end, does have good arm length and has decent strength. So decent strength in front of a pretty good weight, 275 pounds now. So what are we talking about with Owen Carney? Some interesting stuff going on. So this is a real positive. The real positive for Owen Carney in Kansas City is that he is a big, strong defensive end. And if there's someone who is going to make a big, strong defensive end productive, it's going to be Steve Spagnuolo. So he is bigger than Mike Dana. We're going to look at a defensive end on the Chiefs for years now, to whom he compares favorably, but this is not to guarantee that he is a better football player than that football player. But he does have good size for the position. He does have decent strength for the position. If there's a defensive coordinator who's going to be able to figure out the Mark Carney puzzle, because look, there's guys smaller, slower, weaker, and the way less in the NFL on every roster than Owen Carney right now. I keep saying Mark Carney. But Owen Carney has a lot of the physical stuff to be an NFL football player. The problem is, if he added much as a pass rusher, it is likely that someone would have scraped the top couple layers off of him by this point in his career and had him running around a football field in the NFL. That is at a premium in the NFL, and if anyone even thinks you can almost remotely think about doing that, then they give you the chance in the NFL. Talking about it from a strategic standpoint, so I know that Owen Carney is being brought in because of the FAU injury. That said, I think it has seemed to me that the Chiefs have identified Malik Herring as a weak point on the roster that they were hoping to replace. FAU never worked out. A lot of the UDFA that they have brought in the past couple of years never worked out. So it just never happened that they were able to replace Malik Herring. I think they were hoping that perhaps that guy was Janarius Robinson. They lost Janarius Robinson to injury last week and FAU to injury this week. So Malik Herring stays. Enter or re-enter Owen Carney. Have I called him Mark Carney this entire video? I'm going to be paranoid about that now. So here is Malik Herring. 6'3 1/4, 275, 33 3/8 inch hands, 10.5 inch, or 33 3/8 inch arms. Those would be massive hands. 10.5 inch hands. So you're looking at a guy 6'3 1/4, 275, 6'3 flat, 275 now. 33 3/8 inch arms versus 33 inch arms. Very comparable physically to Malik Herring. Now, Malik Herring, coming out of college, ran a 4.9 or a 4.92 40-yard dash, depending on where you're getting that information. That said, Malik Herring was injured his final year in college. So I, at the time, spoke very highly of Malik Herring when he was taken as a UDFA by the Kansas City Chiefs. I said he's going to be a Kansas City Chief. I was eventually correct. That said, he has not lived up to... Malik Herring was a disruptor in college. Disruptive, very disruptive player. You had to know as an opposing offense where was Malik Herring. He has not been that in the NFL. Not the biggest sin in the world. He was a UDFA. He was a UDFA that has been a Kansas City Chief for 3 seasons now. So, look, that's a win. But I do think that they had wanted to replace him on the roster. Despite having FAU, the Chiefs relied more on Herring last year than ever before. In 2022, Malik Herring played 88 defensive snaps. In 2023, he played 163 defensive snaps, and last year he played 193 defensive snaps for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I don't think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be in any position to replace Malik Herring this season. It might be that they have 2 Malik Herrings on the roster. The problem with Malik Herring is that he doesn't add a whole lot of pass rush pop. So bringing in someone like Owen Carney is faster than Malik Herring timed for sure, but appears faster than anything that I remember Malik Herring really looking, right? So Malik Herring was really always in college kind of Michael Myers, right? He never looked like he was moving fast, but he was always right there. And he was always hitting people very, very viciously. So that was kind of Malik Herring's MO coming out of college. If Owen Carney, I've been caught up in the Alberta leaving Canada drama, so Mark Carney is just on the precipice of my mind. But and guys, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and British Columbia, and now since they're all talking about leaving, so is Quebec. So why do I say this in a football video? Well, we might be months away from the NFL being able to expand to Canada without it expanding to Canada. If those provinces all decide to join the United States, they could just be the NFL without a presence in Canada. Anyway, doesn't matter. What I'm saying is I want the NFL to expand. So Owen Carney, I think because of injury, might have a decent shot at the practice squad. I don't think he's going to be on the 53, although they've got to have somebody on the 53, and you are now down one guy who was maybe a fringe 53 guy in Janarius Robinson, and one guy, FAU, who was definitely going to be on the 53. So it's going to be interesting, and I think they might. One thing to look for in the next couple of weeks, there might be a flurry of activity at the edge position. So waived a running back today. They have a couple days before cutdown day. At cutdown day, they're going to set their initial 53. The players that they want on their practice squad that pass through waivers will pass through waivers and be signed to the practice squad. But they might be claiming edge players left and right from the waiver wire themselves. So that is one thing to definitely watch in the coming days. Anyway, that's all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate this, hitting the like button really does help me out. There will be, from YouTube, selected 2 playlists and a video that the AI overlords believe you will like, and you wouldn't want to disappoint them now, would you?